Hello everyone. In this video I want to address the dreaded topic of error types. I've studied this a number of times myself and I sort of got fed up with getting confused about it. It's one of those things that when people start wielding the vocabulary sort of on the fly or in a lecture, it can get sort of confusing what they're talking about. But I'm hoping to show in this video that rather than it being something that you memorize, it can be something that you just sort of reason about, even if it sort of takes you a while to get the hang of it. So let's begin. Suppose you perform a test of significance at the alpha equals 0.05 level. This is our sort of standard level of significance for a two-sided hypothesis test where the null hypothesis is that the population mean is equal to 0, and the alternative hypothesis is that it is not equal to 0. So it's a pretty standard situation. As we'll see, these specific null and alternative don't really matter. This applies generally, but the point is, I just wanted to sort of give you something to picture in your head. Okay. So there are two possible outcomes when you do this test of significance. At the end of it, you're either going to decide, based on the p-value that you acquire, you're gonna either decide to accept the null hypothesis, or you're going to be rejecting the null hypothesis. So if your p-value is less than 0.05, you would conclude that there's statistical significance there, and you would reject the null hypothesis. And if it was greater than 0.05, you would be stuck sort of accepting your null hypothesis, even if that's not really what you want to have happen. So those are the two outcomes to a significance test. These are the only two conclusions that you're going to draw. You're either going to accept it or you're going to reject it. Now, when you do that, you could be correct in doing whatever your test yields, or you could have been wrong. So in statistics, there's special names for these types of things. And we just want to sort of fill this in and hope to sort of grasp all of the different things that could happen. Okay, so let's say you get a small p-value, and so you're going to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so what are the chances that you're going to do that and you're going to be wrong? Okay, well, if the entire point of the significance test is to say that you would see an outcome as extreme or more extreme than what you saw 5% of the time or less just by chance, then the chance that you would reject the null hypothesis and that you would have been wrong would just be equal to the level of significance. Okay? So if you've incorrectly rejected the null hypothesis, this is what's called a type 1 error. And we know that the probability, as I just reasoned, the probability of a type 1 error is just equal to alpha. Okay, good. Let's see what else we can say. Okay, let's say that we decide to accept the null hypothesis, and we've done so correctly. Okay, well, I would call that a type 1 success. But basically, like, the probability of that happening is equal to 1 minus alpha. Okay, so if you accept your null hypothesis based on your test of significance, and if you were correct in doing that, meaning there actually is no effect, you're going to be right 95% of the time in this case. So the probability of this scenario, I'll just call it a type 1 success, is 1 minus alpha. Okay. Now suppose you reject the null hypothesis and you were correct in doing so. Okay, so this means that your test of significance was able to detect that the null hypothesis was in fact wrong. So in statistics, this is called the power of your test. And the probability of this scenario is equal to the power of the test. Okay, and so that leaves us only one other thing that could happen. We know it's going to be some type of error because we were wrong. So in the case that we accept the null hypothesis, but we were wrong in doing so, meaning we failed to detect an alternative, we failed to find evidence for an alternative, when in fact the alternative is true. This is called a type 2 error. And the probability of getting a type 2 error is going to be 1 minus the power. Okay, I hope this makes sense to everyone, and it's just a matter of deriving it here and just knowing the vocabulary of like what we're calling, like what power is referring to. Did we correctly determine that we have evidence? Okay, hope this is helpful. Bye.